Good evening, fuckers, and we are back with the next Train Simulator Classic request video. And this one came from Northlander 74, if you want to give him his full name. And this is a request that I knew was coming. I don't just mean I knew it was coming after I'd done the updated Your Requests Here video. I knew this was coming when I clicked on the buy now option for this particular DLC. Northlander is clearly quite the fan of early diesels, and I can't say I blame him. There are plenty of great ones to choose from. There's also plenty of, shall we say, well-known disasters as far as early diesels. Some of them were truly awful, but they became noteworthy because of it. And in a way, the Class 20, which is the loco that we will be driving for this one, is one of them. But it did manage to redeem itself, so it's got that going for it. Now, his request was quite simply to show the Class 20. Didn't care where or anything else, just so long as we got to see the Class 20 in action. But fortunately, when you get the Class 20 DLC, it gives you a couple of career scenarios in a particular route. And having tried one of these scenarios, and I got absolutely fuck all nowhere, which I'm sure will be a big surprise, but the route was perfect. So once I got this request, I knew exactly where I was going to do it. So we're on the west coast or the west of Scotland lines, and we are going to be starting at Stranraer Harbour, and we are heading to Dumfries, the Queen of the South, as it's known. Dumfries platform 4, so it's a journey of about 75 miles, I think. Other details, I want us to get some good exterior shots, because this is another fantastically scenic route. So, yep, summer, clear, we're leaving at 2 PM, so, you know, perfect conditions for viewing around us. As far as the train itself, we are going to be taking 30 goods wagons. As you may know, if you've seen any of these previous videos, they are all empty, unfortunately, but still, 30, not a bad amount. So let's get her started. And here we are. So here is our Class 20, looking like a giant shunter. And yeah, here are our 30 wagons. Take my word for it, there are 30 there. Here we are at Stranraer Harbour. It's the one brake wagon at the end. I'd be surprised if that was going to do anything, should it be needed. But yeah, fantastic starting point. I'm sure by now Stranraer Harbour is probably a little larger and busier. This particular one is set sort of around I think mid to late 50s. So Dumfries is 73 3/4 miles away. According to the ETA, it's going to take us 2 hours and 5 minutes to get there. So let's get underway. So there is quite a bit of slack in these empty wagons, which is why when we first start moving, it's almost as if it's just the light train. But it doesn't take long for, it's not so much the weight of the wagons, because like I say, they are all empty, it's just the sheer number of them. I mean, the weight of that many empty wagons does quickly sort of add up. So yeah, there's an awful lot of wagons that are just sort of like left unattended around here. Note, these rails have not been electrified. Yeah, these are telegraph poles that are running alongside us. So we have crossed the 30 mph sign, but yeah, train this length, it does take a little while before we can actually start doing 30. But not for very long, as we have a 20 mph reduction in less than half a mile. So we're in the 30 section. Let's I think we can go full throttle now. Throttle down, start applying brakes so that we are down to 20 as we pass. We may have actually braked a bit too late. No, we haven't. That is, again, see, when it comes to judging braking distances, I'm still absolutely fuck all nowhere. This is why the 20 mph speed reduction. We need to go over these points because there's another load of wagons that have just been dumped here. And once we are off those points, we can then go up to 45 and then very soon after that up to 60 mph. Okay, so we're in the 45 section now. So, as I was saying in the intro, the Class 20 was initially a bit of a disaster. And this was for a few reasons. Firstly, it was extremely unreliable. One thing that it did very well was break down. And yeah, the British Rail did get a bit sick of it constantly doing that. The other thing is it was rather underpowered. It had 1100 horsepower, which for a diesel locomotive is certainly low. Which is probably why it ended up making its home sort of in West Scotland, where sheer speed was not so vital. I mean, its torque figures were great, so for freight, absolutely fine. But for passenger service, yeah, it really wasn't great, and it was built to be a sort of all-rounder, you know, to do a bit of everything. But yeah, it failed in that role. And the third general fault with it was that the visibility from the cab was atrocious. Now, you might be thinking, well, it looks pretty good from here, and yeah, it does from here, but this was not the original driving position. In fact, we are really running this train backwards. So get outside, yeah, the huge great engine compartment here, like I say, it's like a giant diesel shunter, and this part here was originally the front. And the other driving position is still in the game. So once we've got past this, once we got past Castle Kennedy station, I will show you the second driving position, which was initially, as I say, the only driving position. And because the view was so bad, they hit upon the idea of basically cutting holes in what was the back and putting windows in, and then putting in a second, which then became the main driving position. So here we go through Castle Kennedy station. We can now throttle up to 60 again, and we got the speed increase up to 75, which we're now entering. But yeah, the secondary driving position was here, and this was the first. This was the original. And you couldn't see if I can see. You had to keep leaning out of the window. The trouble is, it takes us to the first driving position, so we can't actually see much doing it this way. But yeah, the original driving position was just hopeless. So it was not looking good for the Class 20 at all. And then it was able to redeem itself, as British Railways, as they were then, hit upon the idea, firstly, of cutting the windows into what was, what now became the front, so that the drivers could actually see. But also to make up for the lack of power, as I say, this thing only had 1100 horsepower engines. We are approaching Dumfries Gate station, very small station, a mile and a half away. Yeah, they hit upon the idea of running these as double headers. and unfortunately it doesn't do it in the game. But what they did was they would have this one running backwards effectively, and then the engine behind it running forwards, and that way the driver of the main driver of the front engine, speed reduction coming up in a mile. Yeah, the driver of the main engine had a really clear view. The secondary driver in the second engine, okay, you couldn't see a fucking thing up in front of him, but he had a really clear view of the rest of the train. So if there anything went wrong with any of the wagons or anything, he could see immediately. So the views were, fine for freight trains, and of course the power doubled. So they now had 2,200 horsepower, and they were able to really take advantage of that. So Stranraer Gate is one of those blinking you'll miss it stations. In fact, it's actually longer than I thought it would be, but it's still there was still no way in hell we were going to get the entire train on that platform. In fact, I don't think there is a single station on this entire route where we could get the entire train on the platform. So we're just going to have to see what we can do once we reach Dumfries, the Queen of the South, hence the name of its football team. You didn't need me to tell you that though. So we'll soon be back up to 60, but we won't be able to do 60 for long, as we have a 50 mph max speed reduction coming up. In fact, I'll be very surprised if we are doing 50 when we reach that. Right there's no chance we will be. So, getting back to my history of the Class 20, yeah, with the double headers running, the Class 20 redeemed itself, and it really did redeem itself. The only drawback, of course, is that suddenly the amount of Class 20s available for use halved. But I think by that time, the Class 47 was already, if it wasn't already available, it was very close to being available, and that thing rendered the Class 20 obsolete anyway. And a significant number of other VR locos as well, but that is another story. So, be in at the next 60 mph section very soon. But again, we will not be able to do 60 for long, as we have several speed reductions coming up as we approach Glenluce station. Once we pass this bridge, we shall throttle down and start applying brakes for the 40 mph section. We are on an uphill climb, which will help with the deceleration. In fact, we are, as always, braking way too fast, way too early. Now, I thought we would lose speed on here, and we are, but not at anything like the rate we need to. So we're fine now for the 40 mph section. don't know what viaduct this is. I'm sure there is someone out there who can tell us. So the village of Glenluce right here. At least I'm assuming that's what it is. I've just realised we need to start braking quite heavy. Yep, that's why, over those points. Glenluce station itself, considering it's one of these stations that's right out in the middle of nowhere, it's a reasonable size. We'll be able to throttle up to 50 mph once the rest of the train has passed that point, and we can start to properly shift again. There we go. We are on a 1 in 87 climb, and it looks like this climb goes on for a while. And when you consider that, yeah, we are pulling 30 wagons in this thing on this steep uphill section, we are still gaining speed. Admittedly quite slowly, but we are gaining speed. That really does show that despite the somewhat underpowered engines of this thing, torque figures are fantastic. You're able to pull this much weight uphill. It's not bad. We have max speed increase coming up in just over half a mile to 60 mph. I don't think we're going to be doing 60 just yet. There are some sections of this line that will allow us to get a decent amount of speed up. This one that we are currently on is not one of them, but still. See, this sort of part of southern Scotland, when people think of, you know, like the scenic Scottish areas, they think of the Highlands and the West Coast, and for good reason. You know, I mean, they are incredibly scenic, some of the most scenic parts of the world, let alone, you know, parts of Britain. But southern Scotland has its fair share of, like, you know, fantastic scenery as well. I myself, I'm more familiar with the scenery around the borders, the other side of Scotland. Dumfries and Galloway I'm not so familiar with, but let's face it, it don't look bad. Looks like we have a bit of a fire coming up ahead of us. It almost looks as if that hut was on fire. So now that we are on a 1 in 83, we are starting to lose speed, but it looks like we are reaching the summit, so we're not going to be losing speed for too long. Okay, so we have reached the summit. Now we are on the descent, which is a 1 in 100. It may even be that we will need to do some of the old speed control braking during this downhill section. Yep, we are certainly going to need to. You're not going to need to brake too hard, but gives the engines a bit of a rest, although yeah, it has now leveled now. Let's coast for a little bit. There is what looks like a fairly slight downward slope coming up. It was a quarter of a mile away, but it certainly gets steeper as you look further down the line, about 1.5 miles. So 1 in 200, it's not enough to increase our speed, so let's throttle up and take care of that. So in about a mile and a half we got a speed reduction, effectively 25 straight away. I dare say that means there's a station close by. It's certainly, oh, there it is. I was just going to say, it doesn't look like it, but yeah, there is one. It's just very small. So now a 1 in 100 downhill slope. So Kirkcowan station looks very much like it's going to be one of those blink and you miss it. This line doesn't have the smallest station platform in the country, but one of the lines I have does. That's on the Kyle line. I don't know which station it is, but I know it's on that one. When you consider how small some of them are, like, you know, the ones on what was it, the Valley station on the on Anglesey, the North Wales route, and that one is tiny. So if this smallest one is even smaller than that, yeah, we're amazed if a single carriage could sit on it. So, as I always do, I braked way too early and too quickly. But this 25 mph section isn't too long. And once we are the other side of Kirkcowan station, we can get back up to 50 mph. So we're in the 50 section. The 25 actually is in the wrong place here. We would definitely have needed to be doing 25 as we went over those points. Thankfully we already were. So here we are at Kirkcowan station. I actually thought it was going to be quite a bit smaller than this. I mean, alright, we are only going through it at 20 mph, so yeah, that might be playing a part as to why it seemed to be bigger than I was expecting. Anyway, we're not in the 50 section yet, but we had dropped quite a bit below 25, so I think we might get away with accelerating this early. No, we're not. But now we can, so we certainly won't be anywhere near speeding by the time we get to the 60 section, so yeah, let's just keep going up to 60. We are on a downward 1 in 100 slope, which certainly helped with the acceleration. We are certainly closer to 50 mph than I thought we would be. Now we're in the 60 section. Let's take in some more sights. Got another uphill climb fast approaching. By the looks of it, that one could slow us down a bit. It's only a 1 in 150 at the moment. That's not going to be a problem, but I think it's going to get steeper than that. Dumfries is now 54 miles away. So it never got any steeper than 1 in 150. And now we have a downhill section coming up and we are approaching top speed. So we are at 60, so I think it's safe to say that some speed control braking down this 1 in 100 downhill section is going to be required. Yeah. Steepen now to 1 in 86. And Newton, I don't know the actual full name of that station, Newton Stewart. You need to be braking fairly hard for, not worried about the 40, it's the 25 mph limit that I'm braking for. Still in a 1 in 70 downhill section. That's quite considerable. It's steepened even further to 1 in 68. So it's certainly leveled out now. 1 in 3,263. I don't think is really worth displaying. But now we need to break for the 25 mph section. And as always, overdone it. Let's get our speed back up to 25. So again, the 25 mph limit actually came along long before we hit the point that was displayed on the route display here. Yeah, here's why we had to change. That looks like a class 27 up ahead. Yep, it is. Great trains, the old class 27s, do like those. So that was Newton Stewart station. Once we get out of here, we're back on the main line. We can then start accelerating up to 60 again. Go. We do have a speed limit reduction to 50 in less than a mile. I doubt we'll have reached 50 by the time we get to that point, although we are going downhill again. So our acceleration is better than normal. So actually, yeah, we may need to I'll probably need the brake. I don't really want to come off the throttle and coast this part. Yeah, now the views are starting to become like, yeah, really great. So controlled braking it is, and it's only for a fairly short section, about 2/3 of a mile. So we're into the 50 section. Yeah, this curve certainly explains why the speed reduction was there. Starting to level out very slightly to 1 in 106 and now 1 in 150, so yeah, we're okay now. We're into the 60 section again, not particularly long, a mile and a half. No idea what station that was. Palmer, Payneur, however it's pronounced. Oh, okay, we've got a really steep uphill part coming soon, and we have a 50 mph speed limit that I wasn't paying attention to. So, yeah, we're speeding as we enter it. I can see why it's here. This curve is somewhat sharp. Certainly on the route display, it looks like this uphill section is steeper than 1 in 144. Yeah, we are losing speed. Yeah, it has got steeper. It's now 1 in 80. So now the throttle is, even though we're full throttle, it is just to reduce the speed loss. Our speed is still coming down. A 40 mph section is about a mile away, and then there's another speed restriction to 20, but that's for the station that's there. Freetown, don't know it, I don't think that's going to come as any surprise. This 40 mph section now, we don't need to do anything because we're already below that. Hill scrub us some more around speed. I'm pretty sure we are going to have to brake though, especially as the last two stations, the 20 mph section came up before we actually hit it according to the route display here. Still on the 1 in 80 climb. This is quite a rarity for this section of track. Platforms on both sides, 2 rails. That's quite a major station by the standards of this sort of area. So that's Creetown, but Crete doesn't know how it's pronounced. So once again, as soon as we soon as the train is off those points, we can then start accelerating again, back up to 50. We are still on this 1 in 82 slope, so it's now, yeah, 40 limit, and now 50. So we are still picking up speed, despite the fact we are still going uphill on 1 in 82. Got steeper still, 1 in 78. We're still gaining speed, only just, but we are still doing it. Still going up. So it's a 1 in 82 gradient now. But it keeps sort of hovering around anywhere between 1 in 78 and 1 in 85. So for a train, that is steep no matter where in that sort of range it fits. So speed increase coming up in a mile, or top speed increase to 60. Even though we are gaining speed still, I don't think we need worry too much about the possibility of speeding in that section. So it looks like speed is coming down a bit now, not surprising. We're now 1 in 65. That is pretty miraculous that our speed is only coming down as slowly as it is. So we're now in the 60 mph section, but well, it's leveled out slightly. We're back to 1 in 82. Speed is going up again. Speed reduction coming up in just under a mile to 40. I'd be very surprised if we are doing anything like that by the time we get there. And then a further speed reduction for points just after it. So Gatehouse Station coming up, which seems to be on the summit of this climb. Less than half a mile to the 20 mph section. Okay, it's close to some of that. We'll brake for it once we hit the 40 mph section. We won't need to brake too much. So yeah, the section for 20 mph came along way before the according to the display here, we've reached it now, but yeah, we've been on it for almost a train length. So again, 2 rails, 2 platforms for this station. Yeah, the points there rejoining the main line are certainly not very smooth. They weren't particularly great at the station before this one either. Oh, I'm not paying attention. Well, we're now in a 40 section, so... and now in a 50. Now we are going downhill on a 1 in 64. Let's see how much of this we can coast. Yeah, I think speed control braking is definitely going to be required during this descent. we are picking speed at a real old rate. We're already at 45. So we are going to have to brake before we hit the bottom of the this descent here. It's now 1 in 60, so it's even steeper. I wouldn't fancy that climb. Glad we're doing it this way round. Okay, so we have reached the bottom, so now we are heading uphill. Again, I wasn't paying attention, Jesus Christ. So now we are going entirely uphill on a 1 in 76, so I think, yeah, we're definitely going to need some throttle here. Dumfries is now 36 miles away, so we are now pretty much at the halfway point. In fact, we're over halfway. In the halfway point it was 38 miles to go. Now downhill 1 in 76. And some controlled braking is going to be in order here. We have a 40 mph speed reduction coming up, so yeah, let's actually get ready for it, unlike the last one. Take it right past it so that then we can let the slope give us a bit more speed. Just caught that. exterior shot as we go over the viaduct. Alright, so now we're uphill again. Throttle up. We are gaining speed on this, well, it's now 1 in 82 climb. Leveled out completely now, so we'll coast this bit till we enter the 50 section, which is not very long because we then get a 15 mph section as we enter the Loch Scarrow station. In fact, it's really not worth increasing our speed at all, so we'll just carry on coasting. So this must be the loch in question. Really don't want to be braking too early here because, yeah, 15 mph we're just going to be crawling through it. Once again, the marker was in completely the wrong place. So this looks like a station with a really, really small platform. Here it is, it's just made of a few planks of wood. Yeah, that was it. That was bloody small. You can see the old water refilling point there for steamer locos. Rejoin the main line once the rest of the train has done so, back up to 50 mph, and hopefully we'll get the chance to really get some speed up. Well, get up to 50 at least. Right, here we go. I think the downward slope here means we can coast this. Definitely are going to need a fair bit of speed control braking here. This downward section goes on for at least another 1.5 miles. Next station coming up in 1.5 miles, New Galloway. One in 71 downhill section. I was wondering why the speed was picking up so fast. So it's eased off a little here, but I think it's going to get a lot steeper as we approach the station. Yeah, so 1 in 79. In fact, it's not a lot steeper, but nevertheless. We are going to have to be braking really hard for this part. I know the 15 mph section is still like 1/2 mile away, but in fact we are, okay, it's now only 1 in 83. That does not help us braking for such a slow section. And of course we know that this is going to be the wrong place, so we really want to be doing it for where the signal is. I've left it too late. Yeah, it's now 1 in 72. So, yeah, again, we are speeding. Not as bad as it could have been, but let the slope continue to speed us up. So we have a steam, looks like a black 5 in the station. I am continuing to try to get the grips with driving steam trains, and I am getting better. The last attempt I made, I was actually able to go from one station to the next, which is a distance of about 3 miles, and I managed to do it without the boiler exploding. That is significant improvement for me. But yeah, the brakes, which is my real sort of weak spot with steam trains, by the time the train had come to a standstill, I was about, well, I'd guess about between 200 and 250 yards away from the station I was supposed to be stopping at. That was a really iffy set of points there. No wonder it was only 15 mph across those. Yeah, I was about 200 yards away from the station. That is not the cab being 200 yards from it, the entire train was 200 yards from it. So yeah, my braking in steam leaves a lot to be desired. I say that as if the braking in the diesels and electrics doesn't, but in steam it is particularly atrocious. So 45 mph speed limit around here. Looks like we were going to be reaching that no problem, but we have a speed decrease to 30 coming up. So yeah, we'll coast for a bit before I have to apply those brakes. We are on a 1 in 80 downhill section still. And our speed is still going up as a result, but not at a rapid rate. Okay, let's start. So the next station is Parton. You know what's coming next. Yeah, it was so named because yeah, there's a couple of mountains right by it. Massively overdone the braking here. 30 is the slowest we need to be doing. So let's I'm not familiar with Loch Ken, but there it is. Great stuff. Right. So we're into the 45 mph section, and then we have a further speed increase to 60, so we can go through Parton here at pretty much max speed, or at least the fastest that the route will let us go. Well, that is and was Parton. So next station is coming up in a mile and a half, across Michael Station. Dumfries is now just 25 miles away. Coast for a bit before we need to brake for the, well, I don't know whereabouts we would need to brake for. I'll aim for braking around the signal rather than the where it's showing on the route display, because that is bound to be wrong again. To be braking quite that early. I think I can see the points, so no, it wasn't the points I could see. It's still, yeah, quarter of a mile from the fucking, so I've really overdone the braking for this bit. Okay, so the points weren't in the right place as far as, or rather this marker wasn't in the right place again, but it wasn't as bad as some of them have been. Back on the main line, just wait for the rest of the train to join it and we can crank up the throttle again. Alright, there we go. Well, we do have another speed decrease to 45. It's coming up pretty quickly. Yeah, we are not going to be doing 45 when we hit it. Close to here by the looks of it. Well, I don't know, we could be doing faster than this, but we are on a downhill section 1 in 100 and our speed is going up, so it's going up a lot faster than I thought it would be. I don't really want to be putting any speed control braking in, but we may have to. There's no may about it, we will have to. Okay, so we're leveled out now. Okay, now we're on the 60 MP8 section anyway, so we'll get underway. Let's see how fast we can get the old class 20 up to here. Castle Douglas is the next station. So I didn't really get the chance to get some proper speed up. I mean, yeah, I know I'll have braked far too early anyway, but we weren't going to be doing or going a hell of a lot faster than we actually did reach. If we can actually see, well, I'm assuming there is actually a castle, you know, in Castle Douglas. Because Scottish castles do tend to look quite different to the their English equivalents. I think that section there is coming in from probably the part that was taking us up to, or would take us up to Fort William and Co. So here we are through Castle Douglas station. By this area standards, this is a massive station. Quite a major sort of freight area by the looks of it. Anyway, let's get ourselves up to the 40 mph limit that we are now able to do, and it won't be long before we are able to do 60. In the 60 mph section now. Looks like this section actually lasts a fair bit. Let's see how fast we can actually get this thing. Start braking a bit. We got pretty bloody close to 60 mph though. I've overdone the braking massively. Not only too early, but too much. Yeah, this 50 mph section looks like it's going to require some speed control braking, so yeah, we'll coast this bit. And I'm fairly sure we will pick up speed as we go along. Yeah, 1 in 100 we definitely will. You can certainly see why the speed restriction is here. So, can we get into the 60 mph section? Yep, without speeding. Although we are not going to be able to do 60 for long before we then need to slow for the Dalbeattie station. Mind you, we're also getting quite close to the speed limit as well. Right. The uphill section is likely to help braking quite a bit here, but nevertheless, 40 we're not just crawling along, so I don't mind braking a little early for this one, but not this early. We're still nearly half a mile away from it. Black 5. So we're into the 40 mph section. This looks like another quite major station. A lot of sidings and goods yards and everything else. There you go, that was Dalbeattie station. Keep on coasting. Once we're into the 50 section, then we'll throttle up, especially as we have a 60 coming up after it on an uphill section. And while it doesn't look super steep, I think it's going to be steep enough. So, right, here we go. I thought my cup of tea would last the journey, but no, it hasn't. We still have just shy of 14 miles to go, and I'm now out of tea, which is it's not a good thing. I think when it comes to doing the rest of the videos that the rest of the requests that I will be doing today, I definitely need to get my supplies in. So next station is Southwick. We have a speed decrease, but not much of one, only 50 mph. Yeah, we are certainly not going to be doing 50, so I reckon we can go through there at full throttle, maximum thrash and all that, which you should know by now I am a big fan of doing. So we're into the 50 section. And there is the Southwick station. Yeah, not a particularly major station, that one. So 150 uphill section, which is having an impact on our acceleration. We are still gaining speed, but I don't think we're going to be hitting 60. So Kirkgunsian is the next station. I've almost certainly butchered the pronunciation of that one. And it looks like we are not going to need to take any action as far as the 50 mph max speed reduction is coming up. We have another Black 5 approaching. Speeding through there, but I wanted to make sure we were still going full throttle as we went through the station. MPH section now. Let's fire it up again. We're now 10 miles from Dumfries. The next station is Killywan, 1.5 miles up the line. Speed restrictions as tall actually as we go through this station. So let's throttle down just for a second just to make sure that we are not going to be speeding as we go through it. And then we'll go full throttle just as we reach the signal. Signal there, here we go. Killywan looks like, or Killywan, whatever, yeah, it looks like it's a very small station, and indeed it is a very small station. There's any number of pronunciations for this next one. Locan Head. That's the one I'm going with anyway. So again, we'll just close for a bit so we can then throttle up as we are going through there. Okay, we've got an uphill section coming up as well, so I reckon we're alright to throttle up now. Half a mile or so from the station. Another Black 5 coming along. Looks like a very small station indeed. Yeah. We are actually losing speed as we went through there because the gradient 1 in 77, but now we're going to be gaining quite a bit because we are on 1 in 73 downhill. So speed braking is very much in order because we've got a 50 mph section coming up here. So we need these brakes to kick in a bit lively. There we go. just 5 miles from Dumfries. So we're going to come in quite a bit earlier than the original ETA had us at. Less than 10 minutes away. Get some braking in because yeah, we certainly need to. Right, so now into a 60 mph section, we can start throttling up again. So Maxwell Town, next station. That must surely be the penultimate station, because Dumfries is now less than 3 miles away. This downhill slope still, 1 in 92, we're back to the old controlled braking again, so we're not going to be going full throttle through Maxwell Town. I haven't heard that for a little while. Maxwell Town certainly is quite a large station by this route's standards. We need to start braking here. 40 mph speed limit coming up. Dumfries is just a mile and a half away. a yellow signal. Can't see from here what the next signal is, but that was just a single yellow. Now this, well, as long as it's anything other than red, will be okay. We can just keep going. That looks red to me. Oh, it's just turned green. mph limit, but we're not going to be taking it right up to 30. So yeah, we are on platform 4, which it looks like actually all of these platforms are on a curve of some kind. I very much doubt we'll get the whole train on this platform here, but we'll give it a go anyway. So you know what? I think we might actually do it. Yep, here we are. There we go, the whole thing on the platform. So there we are, the Class 20 with all 30 of its wagons on the Dumfries platform there, having departed from Stranraer Harbour. Great run. It's a great line, the west lines of Scotland, and especially with this loco. Class 20 is a great one to drive, and I suspect this is not the last we'll have seen of it on or in any of these Train Simulator Classic request videos. Now I did get quite a few speeding faults. Let's see just how many. 13 of them. Yeah, that is a fair old amount. But yeah, that was a great one. So if you have any requests you want to make, then click on the old link in the description there. It will take you to the video which shows all of the locos and routes that I have available, plus an update section in the comments that's been pinned, so there will be some in there that did not appear in the video because I didn't have them at the time. Then yeah, bung your requests in the comments there and we'll get it done. Anyway, yeah, great one that. Enjoyed that one. We'll see you in the next one.